fortnight later, I got off in good old Montreal. The port was bustling with the men here to heed the call. Come, all ye strong backs, dig the Lachine Canal. We'll pay you 5 bobs a day to one and all. Ah, switch. That very night I was jumped by an Irish gang. They roamed the streets, drunk and high, looking for Canadians. Not a magistrate in sight, shiners never hang. I made up with some loose teeth and a bruised hand. Ah, switch. Morning come, I walked down to the Northwest Company. Their agent looked me up and down. I think you'll do, said he. No more than 5'4", just right this stole your feet. Down inside our long canoes, our blessed life you'll lead. Ah, switch. I danced up to the neighboring inn to drink my sign-up pay. That black rum kept me good and drunk for 2 nights and a day. There I learned to curse the men of the Hudson's Bay. Competition would be fierce, thereby be afraid. Ah, switch.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming on this beautiful evening to this great venue, Vice Versa. We're really happy to be here. My name is Layla Marshy. I work with Robin Philpott, and we published Philippe Mineau's first book, The Guilt Trippers. When it came to me, what I really loved about it, it's a straightforward story, but it's very unique because it's from the man's point of view. I think we don't see a lot of fiction that tries to interrogate familyhood, responsibility, relationship, hobby, music, and juggling all that and always trying to do right. This kind of, we're in a place where we're understanding more about power in society, and it's very easy to, be angry at men, let's say. And Philip's book, to me, reminds me that men are trying to, and trying to be a good dad, and trying to be a good musician, and trying to be a good partner, and trying to be a good friend, and it's the human condition. And I think society and roles take us in directions that aren't always healthy. But what I loved about this book is I could just watch somebody try really hard to be a good person. And he writes with such muscularity regarding the music scene. His scenes where he is talking about the band jamming and making music and riffing off each other are fabulous. They're fantastic. I think it's some of the best writing about music making that you can find. It blew me away. So Philippe Mineau, I'll just introduce his bio. He's a life partner and father to 2 young boys. He's worked in a lab coat firing lasers at proteins in Denmark, played accordion for jazz, manouche, and Forró bands, worked as an illegal migrant fruit picker and farm laborer, and written policy on psychedelic drugs for the federal government. He currently runs a music studio in Montreal's Little Italy, plays in the pop band Radio Patente, and tries to spend as much of his summers as possible on the water, canoe paddle in hand. The Guilt Trippers is his first novel. Let's welcome Philippe Mineau.
Very kind.
So I just have a couple of questions. I didn't want to get too deep in the questions. I think you need to read the book, and maybe you have your own questions too, in which case please feel free. Philip's a very nice guy, as I'm sure most of you know already. So one of the things I wanted to ask is, your book is about the frustrations and the longings and the juggling of things that want to pull you apart. The music trying to you know, it's a dream of being part of a band again. You're new to the city in Montreal. You're trying to set down roots. You're trying to, well, I won't say you, the character Moe Tremblay is trying to, you know, stand up for his wife and raise the kids in the best way possible. I'm just wondering what was a challenge? What was difficult or challenging to write about that? Going deep into relationships or the music, and what was the most satisfying?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, it's a story about very difficult years, and I think any parent's lives, right? Kids between the ages of 0 and 4 is sort of any kids between the zeros of I've started calling them the dark years, and it seems to be resonating. And so what's hard about writing is writing in that moment is you know, they talk about the fog that comes in afterwards where you just forget about all of that stuff, because probably you wouldn't have kids again if you did remember about all of that stuff. And so there's so much that gets lost in that fog that we don't talk about, that we don't really remember, that doesn't really enter the public discourse or really is known to new parents that are coming up. They just hear from it secondhand from friends that are a bit older, and then they just sit there with their dread until it actually happens to them. And so I thought it was important to write about that moment while being in that moment, and that's the hard part. Is you know, young kids. It's not a lot of time, and it's this has been 3 years coming. You know, this is a manuscript that was written in the summer of 2022, and it's a lot of hard work getting it to the page.
I will talk about one of the scenes. One of the scenes I really loved is Moe is constantly, among everything else, he's dealing with this neighbor who's not picking up the dog shit in the alley behind the house, the alley where he has to walk his kids home, where he needs to pull out his garbage bins, and every time Moe comes home, there's like dog shit everywhere. And it's kind of the thing you put up with, you know, living in the city. And then Moe loses it at one point and just starts flinging frozen dog turds everywhere. It's a really good scene. It's a really good part. It's a really Montreal story. A lot of it is set at the Barfly, on the streets of the plateau. Moe takes the kids to the Jean Talon market. There's a lot of French. You know, everybody's trying to speak French and interact in French, and you know, you're driving down Clark or, you know, going up and downtown, and of course being in the bar. And I wonder, you've lived in other cities as an author, and I'm just wondering how specific for you as a writer. Could you have set this in a bar in Ottawa? Would it have had the same resonance?
Yeah, I mean, Montreal is truly special in that way. I mean, I consider myself lucky to have landed here and with a lot of really good friends that are able to do amazing things. But I mean, 3 years and just, you know, explosion of music and writing and I don't think in my life no other city has inspired that kind of creativity, because you see it everywhere around you. Almost everyone is engaged in some piece of art or cultural making or writing or thinking about that. It's so much more omnipresent in the fabric of the news of the city, and you hear it in the French news. Like every morning on Radio Canada, there's cultural segments every single morning about the cultural events that are happening that day, that weekend, and that's amazing. You don't find that just everywhere. I am going to write a story about Ottawa, but it's going to be about bureaucrats.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's going to be a different vibe, man.
Yeah. You need that. As a first-time author, can you tell us about your writing habits and how you got to the point? I mean, it's an enormous amount of discipline, really, going from start to finish and then mailing it out. And I know you work, and of course you have 2 kids, and you're married, and just what the writing life was for you during those years.
Yeah, it's we were talking about it with Doug here, who's mentioning taking a year off to be able to work just on creative projects, because like it or not, the system that we're in terms of wages and wage earning, takes so many creative people away from creative endeavors, and that's a tragedy. I think that there's a lot of people out there that have things in them that could come out if only they had the time. And so this is a plug. I mean, I took 1.5 years of parental leave because it was available to me, and I'm very thankful that it was. I think it should be available to everyone who has a kid, but that's the only way that this was possible, because in the last 3 months, I put the kid in daycare. He was 1 year and 3 months at that point, and that gave me 3 months a summer to work on writing. And I told myself, look, you've been wanting to get this out for a long time. You've been working on this story for 20 years, and I have. It's another story. And I had told myself, you got 3 months, like sit down and write it, and either you do it or you don't. But that's it. And then I sat down, and every morning, 9 to 12, I would write down, I would write, and I type in the afternoon. And it became a habit, and a whole new story came out. So I still have one in the wings.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Good.
it needs to be finished. But time, it's so important to make time for this. Because life is not going to give you that time if you don't take it.
I think you're gonna perform something. One of the characters, do you want me to introduce a little bit, or do you want to talk about it?
It's a little reading,
So one of the characters in the band is one of the elements that Moe in the story struggles with and against. Somebody who takes up a lot of space and energy, but he's absolutely a brilliant songwriter and a really integral part of the music scene that Moe joins up. And this is a song that he wrote.
We'll lead into that.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a short reading. I think you've heard him. And before I start this, un gros merci à la famille, à Melissa et aux enfants pour tout le temps qu'ils m'ont donné pour tout ça. And then thank you, of course, to Rocket Books. And to Layla, who's an excellent editor and an excellent writer, and who just got nominated for a big prize herself. It's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So this is an excerpt from about the first third of the book. I sense the satisfaction Wilburn gets from the familiarity, the steady schedule, the known motions of preparing for communion with his brothers in arms. Across the city, how many other bands are meeting tonight in dark and seedy locales, spending the evening working and drinking together? I see them every day, men and women, black guitar bags sticking up above their heads, walking with purpose, casting knowing looks about them, watching for who's noticing them. More than in any other city I've been in, on any given day of the week, you can spot a musician waiting for the bus or marching along the sidewalk, almost swaggering with pride. They're on their way to meet their kind, to produce something together that will only exist for an instant, erased as quickly as it appeared, only casting a shadow in the minds of those who were there to witness it. Every time I have to fight the urge to follow them, to see where they're going, who they're meeting, what they're playing, to join them. We draw back the grillage accordion and tug on the heavy steel fire door. Light from the hallway spills into the dark windowless cavern like we're opening a tube, musty with stale cigarette smoke, dust motes dancing. Wilburn plugs in the Christmas lights strung along the crusty overhead pipes and sighs, "Baby, I'm home." He lights a cigarette and shuffles over to the drums to check on the hi-hat. He shares his kid with another band that comes in on Sundays. Every week, fucking Olivier Beauregard over-tightens the wing nuts and he's stripping the goddamn things. He pauses, reconsiders, softens. Now you should understand, Ollie's my brother. I spent a decade in the band with him, but it means I know this motherfucker. This isn't out of character, the guy's a maniac. Soon they won't tighten at all, and who will go out and replace them, eh? Not Ollie, that's who. Who? Who? Dean strides in on unsteady legs and bounces off the doorframe. Writing about an owl, are we? Another bird song? He launches into an improvised tune as he slings his backpack off and follows it into the couch. Who? Who, I ask you, Ibu. Ibu looks through you, sees you are free, sees you are few, full of frou-frou. He turns to Wilburn, his eyes glow. I thought you said no more songs about birds, Wilburn. What changed your mind? All right now, Jimmy boy, set up your gear, warm up your amp before you roll yourself a smoke. Wilburn looks at me with a slight raise of my eyebrow. I'm cracking the whip here, no fucking around. All right, don't get too worked up. Dean stands and fetches pedals from the shelf, then places them on the floor at the foot of his nightstand, fighting to smooth out folds in the carpet. I was thinking about this on the metro. I ever tell you guys about those two Quebecer girls we had in one of our camps when I was tree planting? After university, Dean had spent summers planting trees in Alberta and BC, disappearing for 3 or 4 months and returning hard, lean, and scabby. He'd always seemed more alive upon his return, like he'd been switched on. You know, this is hilarious. There were these 2 girls on the crew, 2 Maries, you know? One was Marie Noël and the other was Marielle. Wilburn shakes his head and suppresses a smile at the lead-up. Dean continues. Well, the crew boss couldn't get his tongue around Noël. We tried at first, and I think the girls acted maybe a little snibby about it, like you should know how to say it. It's just saying Christmas, but in French, right? And you know what he landed on? For the rest of the summer, he called them Merry Christmas and Christmas Eve. Dean turns to us expectantly. Funny how something like that can make your day when you're planting. Everything's so much simpler. Wilbur can't help himself. He cracks a smile. I chuckle in appreciation and plug in the last of my quarter-inch cables, then take my seat on the swallow-me-whole couch. Dean's always had an affinity for storing anecdotes, filing away all the little bits of funny gossip that come his way in order to pull them out for friends and acquaintances. But the way he's almost melancholic about tree planting makes me wonder. You ever miss it? Before he can answer, I spot his baggie of weed on the table and add, mind if I roll myself something? Fucking amateurs, mutters Dean in mock protest. Yes, go ahead. My stash is your stash. And to answer your question there, sometimes I do miss it. The work itself, not so much. Too rough on the body. But being out there on the land, going back to an old block, seeing trees that you planted yourself and they're taller than you are and they're thick and strong, that's a powerful feeling. Like I did my part in taking back from the clear cuts. Like this planet can be a forest garden. Once again. He fishes into his backpack for a tired and worn notebook and flips it open to show us. And actually, I have something for you boys. I wrote a new song. You'll understand when you read it. It relates to what we're talking about, I swear. Wrote it at that hipster bar in Villeray with all the pinball machines. I go there sometimes to write lyrics. I lean in to decipher his handwriting. It's a paddling song, he continues excitedly. Canoe paddling. With a stroke for every beat. And a call to switch sides. It doesn't have a name yet. I wait for him to quiet down while I read his something scrawl. I left my home at 17, the Isle of Nicoteau. I didn't want no fishing life, didn't know where to go. Joined up with a group of men bound for Lake Ontario, aboard a fitted fishing craft, a gros petit bateau. And then he starts to sing. Switch. A fortnight later, I got off in good old Montreal. The port was bustling with the men here to heed the call. Come, all ye strong backs, dig the Lachine Canal. We'll pay you 5 bobs a day to one and all. Switch. That very night, I was jumped by an Irish gang. They roamed the streets, drunk and high, looking for Canadians. Not a magistrate in sight, shiners never hang. I made out with some loose teeth and a bruised hand. Switch. Morning come, I walk down to the Northwest Company. Their agent looked me up and down. I think you'll do, said he. No more than 5'4", just right this toe your feet. Down inside our long canoes, a blessed life you'll lead. Switch. I danced up to the neighboring inn to drink my sign-up pay. That black rum get me good and drunk for 2 nights and a day. There I learned to curse the men of the Hudson's Bay. Competition would be fierce, there might be afraid. Switch. Ice breakup came late that year, must have been early June. We set forth in the dead of night, under a new moon. Bend your oars now, men, we'll be in Pontiac soon. The steersman raised his voice in a rousing croon. Switch. We paddled days, we paddled nights, we paddled all the time. Life was paddle and paddle was life, and that was mighty fine. With men whose hearts ran true, as salty as pork pine. I'm proud that I could call them all friends of mine. That cunning bastard often caught us bad around the bend. More than the rapids, though the rapids killed our men. We learned to curse the wind, often foe, not a friend. Ah, switch, white water and waterfalls and everything in between. Those landscapes of destruction were most dreaded to be seen. Big waves and rocks to smash our boats and split our beams. White crosses stand there now, others held in high esteem. Ah, switch, I found my country wife and her warm bed at the great divide. How foothills grow to towering spires filled my chest with pride. There I found my peace and one to bear me a child. Ripped up my gummy contract for a home in the wild. Ah, switch.
Merci infiniment d'être ici. Merci à vous.